All right, welcome. I'm Nancy McNally, Mayor, and this was my last time to be in front of you. We have City Manager Jody Andrews, we have Eric Oxelberger, and we have Chief Hobart. It is going to be Eric's night tonight to share with you what we're doing with the compassion and our unhoused folks and everything. I said you need to know numbers for how much it's costing, what they're doing, how they're doing it. You may have questions afterwards. We'll try to go 40 to 45 minutes with, he's got a great presentation just to update you what all's been going on, and then we'll open it up for questions. For me, I just literally got out of the hospital chemo today, and I'm trying to get that energy to get through the next hour. But my tests came back. This is my first 9 weeks into the new trial. Everything's looking good. Blood work was excellent. Cancer's going down 10%. The 2 big spots are down 50%. So I have nothing to complain about. I'm just a little tired and can go home and eat and fall asleep if I need to. So we're thankful for you being here. It's always been a great crowd. And when a year ago we talked about doing this, we weren't sure, but you have proved it correct, that you like information, you like the topics that we try to pick. Read your minds and think of, well, what's out there. We know what emails we get. So we just want to say thank you for coming. And EJ, I just have to give a shout out to you. And there's several in this room that helped us with 3H. And it was a citizen-driven initiative. And with our firefighters alongside of us and our city manager, you all passed it. So give yourselves a hand. So let's get with it with Eric. And City Manager, did you have anything?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I would like to acknowledge Mayor Nancy McNally. These were her idea to do community updates and engage with the community on topics that are important to you. And she raised it at the strategic planning session with all of City Council, and everybody on City Council said this was a good idea to move forward. So she's been fantastic to work with in this forum. We work together a lot in our day jobs together. But if you don't mind, I think given that this is Mayor McNally's very last one as mayor of this city, maybe a round of applause for Mayor Nancy McNally. I know she doesn't like it when I do that, but
I can't talk when I have tears in my eyes.
Sorry. Okay, tonight, Eric Oxelberger, our Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Director, is going to work through this agenda. The first up will be him talking about our continuum of compassion. And we are joined, as the Mayor has noted, with Police Chief Hobart, because the two departments work very closely together. And Eric will describe that relationship. Then Eric's going to talk about homelessness by the numbers. So this will be a data-rich night for you. We're going to show you the numbers and what does Westminster see with our homelessness community, and what are some of the things that Eric's team leads. That is the resources and enforcement side of things. And so Eric's going to walk through partnerships with other agencies and jurisdictions. We work very closely with a lot of nonprofits, with our county partners, and Eric will get into that. And then we'll talk about Westminster's work directly, and that is our very own homeless navigators who work for Eric and his team, and the Continuum of Compassion will close with that, and then we can have a discussion about our successes with our homeless community and our other residents of Westminster, and then also our challenges. We are not going to say that we have this figured out. Our neighbors don't, our county partners don't, but we're working very hard on it, and we do that with a lot of input and engagement with our community. So, Eric.
Well, good evening, y'all. It's nice to see you. And as Jody said, I'm Eric Otzelberger, the Parks, Rec, and Libraries Director, and we have a small but capable, I call them our Human Services Unit, led by Kate Scarbeck. Kate, my apologies, Kate is on a much-deserved vacation, but her timing, she's the true expert and kind of the lead for us on the resource and support side, so I just have deep respect for her from the days working with her when she was the library manager to what she's doing now and her team of navigators. But it takes all of us, the chief and his team, especially his community engagement special event team, on a daily basis. They're coordinating with our rangers, where we're rather unique in the city of Westminster, where our Parks, Rec, and Libraries rangers run point with a lot of items. It takes our library, Irving Street Library is a resource, and Amy Rhoda and Kayla Delgado and their team there. Strong support, our fire department with Chief Burke when we do emergency warming shelter at the MAC. It's really, this issue is one of the, if not the hardest issue that we work on, and it takes many from the city that are trying to figure out a path, but there's management but no solutions. So homelessness is trending down. Usually I get a reaction of, no, you're full of it, Eric. So what you're seeing here, and this is imperfect at best, but this is the point in time count. So this is mandated by the United States Congress. The Denver metro area conducts point in time. It has to be conducted per federal statute at the end of January. And this count, the Denver metro area receives roughly $29 million in federal funding. And doing this count is you have to do this in order to receive that funding. So you see the numbers there, and actually from 2023 to 2024, once again, this is just one evening in January, and this includes all known unhoused individuals. So whether they're outside, whether they have a voucher, whether it's a housing voucher or hotel voucher, living in vehicle, you can see for just looking at 2023 compared to 2024, pretty significant increases for United States, Colorado, Metro Denver. Even Adams County and Jefferson County. So we were a little bit of an anomaly with a small decrease. But once again, this is just that point in time count. So a key message in, City of Westminster is 33.5 square miles. And this is, the map is impossibly small there, but we have small grids that we divide the city up into. In any given, this is a dispersed challenge, if you will. 2/3 of the city at any one time will have at least one encampment in a year. Of course, their variability, ebbs and flows, but on average, we anecdotally believe, there are roughly 100 individuals in the city at one time that are unhoused. Now, over the course of the year, folks we come in contact with, that number is closer to 300, 350 unique individuals in the city of Westminster. Are just to give you rough order of magnitude, our navigators who work on the resource side, they're engaged with about 150 of those, so roughly half. So we couldn't do what we do without many regional partners. So these are faith-based partners, intergovernmental partners, nonprofit, business. Example is the Westminster Elks. They have a really nice program related to laundry tokens and free, that facilitates free laundry services for some of our clients. Kate Scarbeck, who leads our efforts on the resource side, and Alex Reeves, they have over 100 relationships. So, while we have targeted efforts here at the city, we're part of a much larger whole. Specifically with the 2 counties that we're in, so Adams County, we have several partnership efforts with them, the Severe Weather Action Program, or SWAP, up in Adams County, an Employment First program. Of course, Adams County is involved with the Colorado Works program, and that's resources and focus with employment, education, housing, supportive services, childcare, Renewal Village, permanent support, which is permanent supportive housing in Adams County with geographic preference. And as of, I think, mid-November, the Aurora Regional Navigation Center just opened, and that's an emerging resource on the with our eastern side of the city. With Jefferson County, you see a little slide here, just a snapshot from their 15-year strategic plan. Recently, City Council gave the city manager authority to execute an IGA, so that's with all the jurisdictions in Jefferson County and Jefferson County itself, for a pool of 200 hotel rooms when cold weather activation is determined, and that's Jefferson County Public and Environmental Health that makes that call. So in addition, so our navigators are working through that, and Westminster can take advantage of some of that resource. There's one of Jeffco's housing solutions is the 85-unit Marshall Street Landing that opened in September in Arvada, and the Lakewood Navigation Center is a pretty significant resource center that is opening in December. So that's just a little snapshot with both of the counties. Now, most of our effort is focused on response, responding to what's in front of us. We can talk about what our federal, state, county partners are doing or not doing, but the truth is this is at our doorstep, and so we prioritize the response. However, the most cost-effective response is preventing homelessness altogether. And you see, there are some resources we offer here with legal assistance, financial assistance referrals, program referrals, diversions. So, while we do spend a lion's share of our time in that response mode because it's sort of a triage approach, we're working to try to get more on the prevention side of things. So who are the people we support when we talk about our Navigator program? And the Navigator program is, we have 4 FTE authorized as navigators. We support individuals that have a verifiable connection to the Westminster community. So I think there's a misnomer sometimes that we'll work with everyone. While we'd love to, we simply don't have the resources or capacity to do that. Now, with those 100+ relationships, the Navigator team and some of their clients work on referrals, work to, no wrong door, get people to the right place. But, some of the things we look for: last permanent address, staying overnight in the city because of work, education, family ties. Those are the sorts of things. So, because they're city resources, we're really looking to take care of folks with a city connection. So there is no wrong door. How do folks get to our navigators? And you see a variety, co-responders in the police department, victim advocates, fire department, resource fairs, the park ranger team, library staff, community partners. We are geared towards resource connection. The navigators are not geared toward enforcement. But, they do their own work, but, a lot of our work is referral-based. So what's the role of the navigator? Navigating the bureaucracy. connecting with resources isn't always as simple as it sounds, whether that's federal, state, county, nonprofit, and there's a lot of case management. So it's very similar, human services type of work, a lot of paperwork, a lot of logistics. We had a recent success story with an unhoused veteran that, because of some VA paperwork, he's kind of in limbo, and one of our navigators, it took a tremendous amount of effort, but was able to verify identity and then was able to get him a veterans-based housing voucher, and he's no longer living in his truck and has a winter that he's not living in his truck now. So, but it was, I can't underscore or the amount of just kind of boring paperwork and logistics and to make that happen. But it's important. So, where did the Navigator program come from? Really in Jefferson County. So. And this was late, around 2018. Jeffco started the Family Navigator program. 2019 MOU. Jeffco City said, "Yeah, this is an emerging issue. This is something we should get working on." And 2020, Jeffco municipalities started their own individual efforts with navigators. So. Well, how do you solve homelessness? Housing, but that's a lot easier said than done. This gives just a flavor. We have a wonderful housing team in our community services department, and they're a great partner and ally with resources. But a lot of that resource navigation, is like trying to meet in each individual client's needs and find the most appropriate avenue and path. So veterans, just quite frankly, they have the most avenues, and that's our highest success rate as far as vouchers. Now, housing choice vouchers, project-based vouchers, those are great, highly competitive. And that's where having focused energy and the quality of staff that we have, we're all good things, but competing against others for those very few spots. The Metro Denver Housing Initiative has what they call a community queue. Wonderful thing, also highly competitive. And then affordable housing. If resources are there, but even affordable can be challenging sometimes. And then, on some occasions, it's working through some things to try to connect with some market rate housing opportunities. But this is really, when we talk about housing, the different categories and kind of routes that are explored. So, like I mentioned with the navigators, it's really case management for each individual. I have some stats the team shared with me here. So really, when the program really started going, it was the end of 2022, and through the end of September of this year, the team has provided 5,629 unique individualized services to clients in those couple years. The funding provided by City Council in the city allows the team to tailor the services based on individual need versus a cookie cutter approach. So that's, no two clients' situations are exactly the same. No two clients are the same. For this year alone, so that was this overarching number, but the amount of work, with City Council's support in this year's budget, we enhanced council. Doubled the navigator team. Previously, it was 2.0 FTE. Now it's 4.0 FTE. This year alone, 2,609 individual services were recorded through the end of third quarter 2025. And, with the icons there, you just see, from some very basic immediate needs to all the way to housing voucher applications. So it's sort of a broad continuum of support services that are offered. So speaking of immediate needs, in this year alone, 2025, the team coordinated 18 resource fairs. 608 attended. Those resource fairs are held at Irving Street Community Library. 608 attendees, and we had direct connections and 7 different service providers participating in those on a regular basis. In addition to those 18 resource fairs conducted this year, the team hosted 4 Department of Motor Vehicle events, where 263 people obtained identification documents that helps facilitate their connection to other resources. So, sometimes things we take for granted, very basic ID, those are things that the team can help with. The MAC Extreme Cold Weather Shelter. So that had 3 activations this past winter, and that's, with the police department, with, fire and paramedics, PRL staff, Bayard Enterprises. So we have a nonprofit partner that, they know what they're doing, with this. That's a, critical, at times, life-saving enterprise that the city gets involved with. So how many have we helped? So the navigators are very diligent in their record keeping. So since the program's inception, we've permanently housed 135 individuals. Since the program's inception, 51 individuals have been assisted with temporary housing. And with hotel stays, you see that number is north of 8,000 individual nights. And then the bold, you see for this year, permanent housing 18 folks, temporary housing 15, and roughly 2,600 hotel stays. So I've been talking about the resource side of things. There is a balance. It's an imperfect balance at best, but there is an enforcement side of things. And for for parks, recreation, libraries, open space properties, our park rangers perform enforcement activities from a civilian standpoint and partner with our police department when that is needed. So here you see 2023, 2024, and as of November 4th, camp data. So you see so you saw that point in time, right? The first slide with the reduction. So as far as logged actual encampments this year, we've seen a 72% increase compared to last year. Now that's encampment. An individual can be associated with multiple encampments, but each individual encampment is logged and worked per the continuum of compassion per the rangers. Now, from 2024 to this year, you see a 35% decrease in our ranger trespasses. So those are our rangers are civilian. They're not post-certified, like Norm's staff are. But and we try to take the edge off PD, from the civilian standpoint, and trying to take a softer approach, if you will. But our rangers are really good at what they do. And if folks aren't working with our navigators, folks aren't complying, we'll do those trespasses. Now, it's kind of interesting, right, to see that bump up in logged encampment, but the decrease in trespasses. But you see there's a 43% increase in abatements posted. So I think through a couple years and just relationships and just trying our best to work with people, we do post every encampment, before per protocol, before action is taken, and most folks will find an alternative if it's not viable for them to stay there. We've had a small reduction in encampment abatements, so that's after the fact. We have an environmental services contractor that comes in to help clean up, so that's been a little bit of a reduction, and we've seen a kind of corollary to the ranger civilian trespass decrease, 71% decrease in police department trespasses from last year to this year. So I apologize. That's a whole lot of data, but our ranger team is very diligent in, now we have, at the end of this year, we'll have 3 pretty solid years of data. Dollars. So what you see on the screen here, these are actual expenditures for the past 5 years, with this year being year to date. Once again, actual, not budget, what was actually spent. And that includes personnel costs, hotel vouchers, and any sort of professional services, the costs of our cleanup, and you see the variability there. Now, one thing I'd like to point out with 2025, if you're a budget nerd like me, you're keeping track that the budget for the program had a one-time bump due to complications with an endeavor that the city of Arvada was working on related to a regional facility. So the money that the city of Westminster was contemplating to contribute to that regional endeavor was still in the Human Services Ranger budget. Nothing's happened with that, so that money is still there. It will be rolled forward for city council to decide what to do with that. But that was, this year, kind of an artificial spike, if you will, a one-time spike of that. But you can see with a fair degree of confidence, I can say we are on actual expenditures for this work going to exceed $1 million this year. So the Continuum of Compassion, this is a unique approach that the city of Westminster takes. If you have concerns, you'd like to report an encampment, inquire, Access Westminster. While there is no wrong door, Access Westminster is really a great portal that helps, it helps with our tracking, it helps with our coordination, because oftentimes several departments are involved with these endeavors. But you see 3 paths, if you will, on the Continuum of Compassion. One is related to private property, and that, as far as it's what you can and can't do on private property is a law enforcement matter. Our partners in code enforcement help out on the community services side of things to help coordinate, but that's a pretty linear path there. The middle path, public property, Parks, Rec, and Libraries property. You see the rangers are the first responders, if you will, provide the referrals. We hope folks choose to work with the navigators. If folks choose to work with the navigators, we have more flexibility and time. If they refuse services, that's when the posting and civil trespass process, and if there's an ultimate refusal to vacate, that's where we call for help from our friends from the police department. And then non-PRL city-owned property, that's been the subject of some exploration over the last several months. No ultimate solutions at this point, but that's a different flavor of property, and that could be anything from the Big Dry Creek wastewater treatment plant, because Parks, Rec, and Libraries property, there's a code section that very explicitly talks about what you can and can't do and gives some authority. For some of our other facilities, that isn't as clear. And that's what I have, and I'm happy to answer questions.
You're quick. Thorough.
Okay. Jody knows I'm known for my brevity, so I'm very impressed.
Very impressive. All right. Questions? Jay, because you were such a dedicated person here, I'm going to let you go first.
Thank you. Before I ask my question, I hope that these continue. I think, and I like, and have come to several of these, a more informal opportunity to have a conversation about these important topics that isn't a city council meeting. And while you all have good discussion in the city council study sessions, that's not a time when we can participate. So I think this is a great opportunity, and again, hope that they continue. My question has to do with Aurora has recently announced a big facility that they have opened. It's an interesting idea and concept, and I was wondering if you have any insight into what they're doing there. I don't know what the numbers that we have in Westminster that would warrant that scale of endeavor, but maybe regionally in the northern area, something like that would be useful.
No, thank you. Absolutely. And you're talking about the Aurora, the navigation facility that just opened mid-November, I think November 14th. Or,
Just last week.
So with our Adams County Collaborative and the partnership we have, so our team is plugged in with that. Our team has toured that facility, in contact with some of those folks. So that is a resource we're hoping we can plug into, and of course we want to learn as much as we can about the model. And as you said, I mean, okay, the scale might be a little different, but of course, I mean, we're the region's in this together, and if we can have those good lessons learned from others, we want to try to implement that. But the good news is we're actually plugged in to that.
Glad to hear that.
Jerry, did you have your hand up?
I think it was slide 18, the camp data. Is that just referencing city-owned property?
Correct, Gary. So that's on parks, open space, could be recreation facilities. So anything that would be parks, rec, libraries, or open space. So yeah, that's not complete. If there's an encampment on private property, or someone's in the right of way, this is where the rangers have authority and they're responding.
Yeah, I know some of the churches a couple of years ago were actually using their own parking lots and setting up spaces for people to be there all day, not just when it got cold. And then I'm hearing, and I think I've heard this before, that the Parks and Recreation property tried to shoo these people away. But I have been at the Irving Street Library quite a bit, and there are several encampments around there, and it just seems a shame that some set-aside space on the MAC parking lot property where people could have semi-permanent housing with showers and that kind of thing, aesthetically designed so that it's not, but right now people are setting up tents in parking lots near the Irving Street Library anyway. It's just, this idea of vouchers when it gets cold, but where are people supposed to live the rest of the time? It seems somewhat successful when these churches were setting aside some of their parking lots with semi-permanent spaces for the homeless to take showers, to live. And it seems like rather than issuing vouchers and all that kind of thing and having navigators, just set aside some spaces at our recreation centers in the parking lots for this kind of thing to happen, because it's happening anyway.
Well, Karen, I'm glad you raised that. So our mayor a couple years ago, and in my former role as operations manager in what was community development, we had a study session at council's request to look at this idea of what's called safe parking. So and some of you may know, previously through the DU Sturm College of Law, there was a 501c3 nonprofit that they supported that was called the Safe Parking Initiative. And Arvada, Golden, Broomfield largely it was faith-based organizations that were participating, but this group helped support them. We had some interest expressed from City of Westminster churches, but no one officially plugged in and was adopted as part of that program. At the time of the study session, City Council was just getting more information and exploring the idea. Putting my land use hat on, we had, pending where Council wanted to go with it, at the time, as staff, we recommended at least some sort of conditional use permitting process would have to be considered. So there are some community protections, neighborhood protections around that. But at the time, the direction was to not proceed with that. And since then, to my knowledge, I don't believe the Safe Parking Initiative is active any longer. But I appreciate what you're saying, and I know other parts of the country. I have a staff member on one of my other teams that came to us from the city of Oakland, where they have some more things of that nature that you speak of. But yeah, that's just a little somewhat. It was a couple years ago. It was 2020.
I can add also, Karen, to the question. Last week, every city manager in Jefferson County and the Jefferson County manager met with our respective faith leaders in a large room in Lakewood for half a day, and we went through all of the potential ways that, well, first, the ways that our faith community is already working with our homeless community, and it's significant. It's changed over the last number of years, but the city managers and the faith leaders connected directly. And in Westminster, we had 3 representatives from the faith community that were at our session together. And our commitment to each other is to continue to work together to find those places where the faith community and the city can collaborate and make things better. Their parking lots did come up that day as a discussion point, so that is an active discussion about what's possible with respect to roles that they could potentially play in the solution set.
And I know with Growing Home, back in the day, this has been several years ago, churches opened their doors for a week. We're on a rotating basis, so you had a month or 2 months worth of churches that families could live in that church for a week at a time. So they had food, they had dinner and breakfast, and then everybody packed lunches for that next day lunch. Because we get in our own way sometimes of regulations and code and da-da-da-da-da, that no longer can be. So sometimes I get frustrated because that was a beautiful program. The 2 churches that I was going to during that long time that they were doing that housed people, and then communities within the congregation are the ones that fed and stayed with them overnight and that. Those were based for families. They had to have a job, and they were brought back to the church at night, and kids went off to school. So it was a great program, but we can't do it any longer as long as we have some of the other things. I mean, I could go on with how I feel. Do you want people freezing to death outside, or if there happens to be a fire and not everybody makes it out, who's on the lawsuits and whatnot? I get it, but my brain gets tired of thinking of what could be when we get in our own way. I just want to acknowledge Mayor-elect Carmelia dropped by so she can hear. I think this is one of the first ones she's come to, so people have shared they hope this continues. I don't know what's on her agenda, so you'll have to press her afterwards if you'd like to see this. A scout.
And Mayor, I also want to acknowledge former City Councilor Lindsay Emmons has joined us, and she's in the back row as well. So thank you for coming tonight.
How can young people help with issues like this?
like advisory panel.
How can young people help?
Can I say at this point it's your favorite advisory panel of the city, the youth advisory panel? So great question. We were very fortunate, and with our mayor's leadership, she, over the years, have really taken them under her wing. We have a youth advisory panel that is geared to do, things you're asking about, kind of leadership role. They've done a lot of service-based endeavors. So just whether it's donations, whether it's helping, I could see helping at a resource fair or things like that. But Mayor, I don't know what you think, but I think plugging in, exploring the youth advisory panel would be a great step.
Right, and that's all on the website if you want to look into applying. The other thing is, if you have a home church, get them activated. Not every church has walls. We have several that rent spaces, and so Westy Cares is a group of Christian churches that meet and have for over 10 years, and we have one of those churches. I always tell all of them, they're the best kept secret, because they would never come out and share, well, this is what we do. We do 160 bags of food every week to take to the local school by them, so that families have food over the weekend. They would never tell you that. They would never tell you that they go to a local school in pairs of 2, and with all of the people that go to their congregation, and whether it's math or reading or whatever they are experts in, they take those kids, they work with the teachers, they take those kids in, and they give free tutoring. They also feed them, if it's okay with the parents, and then they take them home. And there's always 2 people in the car. They have all the safety stuff. So they would never tell you that. We have another congregation that since COVID, before COVID, they knew that there was not a Jeffco food bank for Westminster. And so they did all the paperwork, they did all the hard work. They watched what a congregation did in our Aurora. They asked if I'd go along with them and see how it's done. I did. And they did all the paperwork. They get help from no one, but they do allow, a church that isn't real big or doesn't have their own walls and can't have a place to store, they can do food drives. That congregation does not, all you have to do is give your name and how many in the household. Before COVID, they were helping about 350 household members. Today, they're helping over 2,100 every other week. 2,100, and ask no questions. And their congregation has that food. They have freezers. Target has promised they'd never throw anything away. Just because something's dated and they can't sell it doesn't mean it's not good. They call them up, get it in the freezer, so you could go through someday and have T-bone steaks in your basket. So it's businesses. I know Panera does it. Target, King Soopers. When I worked at King Soopers, we'd have people coming back every night. Whether it was bread or meat or whatever they couldn't sell on the shelf. Chocolate milk went like that when you saw people coming to the food banks. So it's everybody helping and not having any waste. And so if your congregation, if you have a home one, isn't doing food drives, our firefighters right now are doing food drive. It will happen to go to the church that I'm discussing it, that has 2,100 every other week coming to them for food. They have coat drive. there's lots of places, and if you don't see something but you think of it, just do it on your own. I watch on Nextdoor, people say they'll put out a box or leave it on their doorstep, and here's where we'll take it. People that don't have to go very far to do that will help. So you can do, honestly, anything you want to do. But there are organizations that you can connect with and just say, how can I help? And Christmas isn't the only time. I don't know how many have different financial situations where in mine, I have it through Thrivent, and they give me 2 times a year $250 to give away. And so my $250 always goes to the food bank. It's supposed to go different places, but I have convinced them this church has proven the needs that this is what they need. So I always call them and say, what are you short of? Sometimes it's the meat. Sometimes it's sugar and flour. Sometimes, during the egg shortage, it was eggs. And so I had to go beg Target, would you put X amount of eggs away for me so that other people can have eggs that can't have access to them. So the sky's the limit. I know you talk every week, so I'm just letting if anybody else has anything. Question?
So I have a couple questions and comments.
Questions.
And
We need questions.
am I not allowed to speak, such as the other people and such as you? You have just spoken, Mayor. Are you trying to keep?
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I have great respect for the navigators, and I know we have 4 full-time positions, but we now know, and I think you should explain, we only have 3 navigators currently. And from my understanding, they are limited to 25 clients apiece. I also volunteer at Mission Arvada. They have 1 full-time, 1 part-time case manager. They have more than 350 active clients that they deal with all the time, unrestricted. Number 1 to you, Eric, why are we restricting to 25? Oh, and by the way, Aurora also, each of their navigators has 50 clients, and they also do street outreach. Why are you limiting the number of clients? And especially if you're saying if people are not in the system, then they can be penalized through trespass, et cetera.
So I'll try to unpack a couple things. First, you are correct. We were staffed with 4 individuals. Unfortunately, our most junior navigator recently resigned, so we're in the recruitment process again for that. Compassion burnout, human services position, it takes a special heart, and unfortunately, turnover can be more of a challenge. So no, you are correct, Alan. Talking about the rising, I think, it's not that simple to do a comparison. I think it's a little bit apples to oranges when you look at the suite of services and quite frankly the breadth that we're fortunate to enjoy here. There is no 25 right now is the ideal. There's no ultimate restriction, and in fact, when we were literally running with our senior most navigator was a 1-woman show for a period of time, and I forget what the number was. It was 70-ish caseload that she was carrying. This was a little time ago, but I think it's not perfect, but we really are trying to dig in to very intensive case management, and it's not like we have 10 years of experience with this, but it's like with that intensive focus, can you connect with resources faster and then take on that new client? So we're just but the 25 it's an ideal, and we're doing the best we can with what we have.
And just as a follow-up, because the mayor had brought up a very good point about the family and the churches, and we have one family that I've been in contact with for many months. When I say many months, 6 months or fewer. Man, woman, a 2-year-old, and maybe now about a 7-month-old. They're living outside. Adams County has said, and I just recently found this out. This was disturbing. They say they will not do anything. It's up to the city of Westminster to do that, to manage that family.
Well, please give me that information, because not just our navigators, but when it comes. But I'm glad you bring this up, Alan. Our rangers have permission and authority to and prepared with families to provide immediate vouchers when there are children involved.
Okay, thank you. I'll keep that in mind. And just one other thing to the police chief. I'm wondering if you have any specific training on how to handle adult homeless individuals. I could give you, Chief, a tale of what I call 2 officers. One who, very kind, very professional. The other just stood and yelled at this man, told him not to speak, just to keep moving on. And then when I asked the officer a question, the officer's voice continued to be rather loud towards me. And I said, "Sir, please, you don't need to be loud. I'm right here. I'm 1 foot away from you. Thank you."
Mr. Farr, when that happens, what I would ask is that you notify us, you notify a supervisor. Some of the officers have specialized training. Obviously, we have the co-responders if there's mental health crisis concerns when that's going on. But quite honestly, it shouldn't matter whether persons are experiencing homelessness or not. They should be treated with dignity and respect. So if an individual is not being treated with dignity and respect, whether they have a home or not, my request is that you let us know so we can deal with that individual and understand the entire situation, but deal with that officer if it's a training issue or other things that are going on, and so that we can deal with that.
Discuss railroad and that right away. Sometimes I know we get emails about encampments, and then we get into whose right of way is it, blah, blah, blah. And did I see a hand?
So what is that cliche that it's God, the railroads, and everybody else? No, railroad, I mean, is a unique right-of-way, is a unique challenge. I mean, and this is where coordination comes in. We do have some good relationships and contact with, BNSF. I mean, Burlington Northern Santa Fe is the line that runs through Westminster. So they have actual, they're post-certified, actual post-certified law enforcement, in addition to their maintenance crews that then kind of help with abatement. So they work with us. As the mayor knows, the railroads do things on their own time, so it's not always as expeditious as we'd like, but we do our best to coordinate with them.
Mayor, the only other thing that I would add there is we do have a good relationship with Burlington Northern Santa Fe. They like everybody else have resource limitations. The last that I was aware of, Burlington Northern had 3 officers that were assigned to the railways for Wyoming and Colorado.
Ooh. So report it, and then you'll get to the right people.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So I have 2 questions. One is, we hear about beds, we hear about housing. What are you doing to increase capacity for mental health? For those who are willing to try for rehab, mental health, what directions? I didn't see that up there. I saw Peak, which I thought maybe was part of that, but I'm not sure, because beds and putting people in houses, putting people in apartments when they're not able to live normal, it doesn't work. So you have to help them step through that program.
So specifically for anyone in the city, but since we're talking about persons experiencing homelessness with the co-responders that are housed within the police department, there's a select group of individuals that come out and deal with individuals that are in crisis. We also have one case manager. She follows up after the crisis is over, but to make sure folks have those long-term, hopefully those long-term plans in place, and works with them to understand what resources are out there, to get them connected to those resources, whether it be short-term or long-term. If it is a short-term, sometimes those folks are placed on a mental health hold, that type of thing, to get the services they need right then and there. But a lot of that is handled through the co-responders and the networks and opportunities that they have in their systems. Yeah.
And then I see a lot of services being offered on 72nd, 76, all in that south area, where a lot of the businesses already have a lot of struggles going on as well. Not much, I don't want to call it a magnet. I mean, it's great that they're there. What are we doing in northern or other areas of Westminster along the ends of bus routes where there's also accumulation? I always hear it down in the south area, but I don't hear any plans of anything in the northern areas or around the city.
Talk about 120th.
So, not this summer, but past summer. I mean, there's some continuing challenges, but there were significant challenges adjacent to the Wagon Road Park and Ride that transcended private and public property. But for us specifically, it was Tanglewood Open Space, Willowbrook Park, significant resource and focused, collaboration between the police department and the rangers. But yeah, I mean, and that slide I showed with the grids, correct. I mean, and we can, map that, okay, there are areas where we see more encampments, but it is spread out, and Wagon Road Park and Ride and kind of there. I'm not, Chief, if you want to say anything related to that, but I think there have been some adjustments there. There are still challenges. What I'll share from the ranger standpoint is that even in that area, there's a little bit more transitory nature where in historic Westminster and other areas, we find folks with more connections and more of a desire to kind of stay put. So but Wagon Road is an area of focus.
Thank you, Eric. One of the challenges that I guess on a day-to-day piece of it, I would say from the officer's perspective, they are all over the city. I can't say that down south may be more advertised, but I can't say that the officers are only down south. They are all over the city on different complaints. As it relates specifically to the Wagon Road Park and Ride, what was happening for a number of years was the Adams County Sheriff's Department, when they released prisoners, they're able to take a bus. They have bus vouchers during normal release times. Normal release times are between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday. What was happening after normal release times was that the Sheriff's Department was Ubering or taxiing everybody that was released to the Wagon Road Park and Ride. Their understanding was that the Wagon Road Park and Ride was 24 hours. And so that bus services were coming all the time. That was not factual. And so you would have people dropped off there at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and there's no services. And where do they go from there? Into the neighborhoods, into the businesses, wherever they want to go as far as that goes, because they've been released. They're either have done their sentence and they're being released, or they posted a bond and they're released until their court date. So we had conversations with the sheriff. I met with the North Glen chief, the Thornton chief, and had conversations with the sheriff. And as of mid-August, I believe, either mid or end of August, they're no longer doing that. So they're now, during the day, people have bus vouchers. Obviously, the bus system will take you wherever, but as it relates to the nighttime drop-offs that were specifically for Wagon Road, those are no longer occurring.
And I don't have a mic, but what is the intention of just dropping people off in a parking lot? So what is the intention? It's like, let's get you away from where we're at and drop you off in Westminster, but yet we're not helping them.
Their idea was that they were getting them to, their thought process was they were getting them to a 24/7 bus terminal so they could take the bus elsewhere. Because they had bus vouchers, they didn't realize that it was closed, and so they were dropping them off. And
Yeah.
The other part of the truth is, where the jail is, those residents did not want them just have the door open and they stay in that neighborhood. Other question, one last one before we wrap it up. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. I don't know what's moving forward, so stay tuned. And thank these fine presenters and Eric for all your work.
masterful as always, man.